Praise the Lord, everybody. Woo! Before we get started, we got to talk to God. Lord, I thank you. I thank you for just being an incredible God. Thank you for all that you've done, all that you're doing, and all that we believe you will do. I ask that this ministry moment be something powerful, something experiential that they can see, hear, feel, and fall in love with you. Jesus, have your way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Come on, I'm ready. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, in my name. Oh, oh, I'll give you peace when the storm is raging. And I'll be your light when the road ahead seems dim. Oh, he says, I am the Father. Come on, let this encourage you. God says, just put your trust in me. Anything you need, have faith indeed. And just ask what you're waiting on. Just ask in my name. Oh, God says, I am the Lord. Yes, I am. And I can move all mountains. I'll be your strength when you're weary, weak, and worn. He said, I am the Father. Yes, I am. Please just put your trust, put it all in me. Anything you need, have faith and just believe. Just ask, in my name. Oh, just ask, come on. In my name, all things are possible. Yes, it is. God says you're able. You can do the impossible. Oh, in my name, all can come boldly. Yes, they can. Before me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I am the Father. Here's what he's saying to you. Just put your trust, put it all in me. Anything you need. Hey, don't worry, have faith, just believe. Just ask, yeah, just ask. In my, hey, there is power. Yeah, come on, take it to church. In the name of Jesus, I know you feel that there's power. Yeah, this will become yours. Not a second or another minute, not an hour of another day. Lord, at this moment with our arms outstretched, we need you to please make a way, as he has always and already done so many times before. Yes, it has. Sometimes through a window or a barely open door. So, Father, we stretch. Come on, right where you are. Just lift your hands. Come on. Lord God, we stretch our hands to thee. Sometimes I get stuck right here. Lord, please come and rescue me, 'cause I need you right away. I need you now. I need you now. Hey, I need you now. I need you now. I don't want to wait another second or another minute, Jesus. Not an hour of another day. Lord, I need you in my home right now. I need you. Some of you need him on your job. You can say, I need you. In your family, with your children, in your finances, in your, come on, you can say it with me. I need you. As a matter of fact, this is how my grandmama would say what she would say it like this. I need, you can sing with me, come on. Thee, oh, I need thee. Hey, every hour, God, it's me and I need thee. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, bless. You got to make this personal point to yourself. Bless me right now. I need a blessing right now. My Savior, my Lord, my King, God, my King, my everything. I go to thee, and when God brings you through it, no, I'm speaking prophetically over you right now. When God brings you out of it, when you come on the other side of it, you got to turn around and say, hallelujah. God, you get the glory. Don't you ever forget it. You better tell him, hallelujah. Ain't it good to know that when God says something, your haters can't say nothing. It's just amen. So I sing hallelujah. God, I'll be ever careful to give your name. I'll give you all the glory. Please revive us again. In the White House, we need you. In the Black House, in the crack house, please revive us again. Make us over, make us brand new. Yeah, and I don't have to wait till the
Front porch. Back at it again, y'all. We got a legend in the house. For real. Real OG. Live from the Front Porch presents none other than the legendary Lenny Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, talking about this girl, yes. Got me in trouble. My girl and I was at the motel on a rendezvous, making sweet, sweet love like we always do. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, my girl was gone. Yes, she was. She texted me a picture on my telephone. She took my drawers, said she gon' put it on TikTok, get 1 million views. She took my drawers, the girl is ready me, y'all, to put it on the evening news. She say she love me, she say she cared. Why in the hell did she take my underwear? Now here's another thing. These drawers were special, a gift from my wife to me, as a symbol of our love on our 41st anniversary. Had a picture on the front and mine on the back. Lord have mercy, I'm about to have me a heart attack. She called and she told me she gon' put it on Instagram. Like Florida said, damn. I called my mama, she said, boy, that's what you get. Just like your daddy, doing that ignorant shit. Shoulda took my wallet, she coulda took my cash, coulda gave me the COVID, y'all. Just like that, but she took my drawers. She took my drawers. She took my drawers. Yeah. The girl took my drawers. She took my drawers. Yeah, she did. Yeah. I'm looking for him too. Yes, I am. I don't want her to bury him. No. Down south, they say if she bury your drawers, she got you for the rest of your life. Yeah, you can't get away. Yeah, can't get away. Hey, let's go back to 1973. 1973, do a little bit of child power. Yes. Ain't nothing I can say, nothing I can do. I feel so bad. Yeah, I feel so blue. I got to make it right for everyone concerned. Even if it's me, if it means it's me, what's getting burned? Come on, y'all. 'Cause I could never make you unhappy. No, I couldn't do that, girl. Only wish I didn't love you so. Oh, baby, so very hard to go. 'Cause I love you so. I love you so. I knew the time would come I'd have to pay for my mistake. I can't blame you for what you're doing to me, girl. Even though my heart aches. Here we go, y'all. Your dreams have all come true, just the way you're playing them. So I'll just step aside. I'm gonna step aside and lend a helping hand then. 'Cause I could never make you unhappy. No, I couldn't do that, girl. Only wish I didn't love you so. Oh, baby, so very hard to go. Everybody help me sing it now, y'all. 'Cause I love you so. I love you so. Now, we did this song back in 1973. Had a dance called the Cha-Cha. Y'all remember that? Say 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. 3, 4, cha-cha-cha. And up now. And back now. To the side if you're on the front porch, y'all. I could never make you unhappy. No, I couldn't do that, girl. Only wish I didn't love you so. Oh, baby, so very hard to go. I wish I had all my choir members to help me. love you so. I love you so. Yeah. 1973, Lenny Williams, Tower Power. So very hard to go. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Oh, man. Hey, I was weighing.
Peace and love to all the Aboriginal Indigenous Indians. Man, shout out to that brother Lenny Williams. I want to play some more of it, but I'll play a little bit more later as I, go out throughout this stream today. Respect to everybody in the chat. Respect to the people who came in for a little bit. Please like the video in or on your way out. Thank you. That would be greatly appreciated. This morning the title was speaking for itself. You know what I'm saying? I think that what I've observed and the things that I've been seeing has been really interesting. That quote right there that I have as my title of this stream comes from the beginning of the Khalees song called I'm Bossy. And that just came to my head as a title, like, you don't have to love me. You don't have to like me, but you will respect me. Okay. We have to respect each other, but I always say, hey, respect is not given, it's earned. And I think in this space, especially the people who's been coming in and doing what they got to do has definitely earned that respect, and I find it very perplexing sometimes when respect gets lost in translation. And to me, it just outlines the issues that we have in our community, not just within the internet space, blah, 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 but within our space as a people, right? And I just want to show a few things today. I'm not going to hold y'all long, I'm not going to hold y'all long at all. We're going to get on this American Indian business, of course. As I was going through some things and looking at some videos and stuff like that, I've noticed, and I'm sure you all have too, how the narrative is just so screwed up. The narrative is so screwed up. And what I've noticed in our culture and in every other culture, there's a form of colorism, form of racism, a form of prejudice, all of the above, right? And I think a lot of that stuff starts and should end with us in terms of kind of obliterating that kind of behavior and trying to walk on a plane that's more peaceful and more loving and more kind. I find that we are very hard on each other, all of us as a collective unit. And if we are basking in information, there should be some type of peace and harmony there. But I mean, just like politics and religion, this thing about our identity can be a fight as well. It could be a fight with each other. It could be a fight, internally inside of your soul, inside of your spirit. That's why I wanted to come with more of the softer tunes today, kind of just being more relaxed and peaceful. And because that's who we are. Naturally, we are one with nature. We are one with our landmass and our universe. And I think that we missed the mark. Let me tell y'all something, man. I love this information down to the ground, okay? And, when you research, you know what I'm saying? You have to understand that there's not no one way of looking at something. I always feel like two things can be true at once. Now, we all can understand and differentiate the truth from a lie, but opinions will always be opinions. And it's up to us to decipher it and make sure that the information that we give to one another is to the best of our knowledge and capabilities and abilities. Shout out to everybody in the chat. First of all, good morning. Hey, George Richard, thank you for listening while you on the road. Don't worry, I'm gonna pull some stuff up for y'all in a second. Shout out to the enemies public. Hey, OTK, Chief Crazy Overstanding. Good morning, y'all. Grand Rising. GG, hey, sis. You know, like this was put on my heart this morning because, like I said, I think there's a lot of disdain for people who have their own research style, their own independent views, you know, and we can't get to a place where we're in an echo chamber, family. There's going to be a lot of things said people that you don't like or don't agree with. You know what I'm saying? Go research it and rebut it. Go research it. Like, stop creating little things in your head because honestly, it makes you look insane. Don't create things in your head and in your mindset about something or someone. Y'all got to stop doing that. Like, there's only one way to think. There's only one way to, I mean, I'm telling you, that's our problem. If you don't agree with somebody, then it's like you the biggest op in the world. Y'all got to cut it out. And it's not even about agreeing or disagreeing. This should be strictly about information. You know what I'm saying? And understanding why, right? But I found this interesting video, you know, especially when we talk about this American Indian business, right? We always talk about this American Indian business. And like I was saying earlier, we get to places where you discover that no matter what aspect or wherever you are, you know what I'm saying, you're going to have issues trying to claim, not even trying to claim, but basking in the identity of who you are. You know, we know, especially our people who connect with these 5 civilized tribes, that there's a lot of racism within these 5 civilized tribes. And it's sad that all the other tribes, and they're there, but a lot of the other tribes have been lost in history, lost within the fabric of the United States. But I thought that this particular documentary was interesting. It's not that long, but I'm going to comment on it as I go. You know, I know yesterday there was this situation going on where YK felt like he wanted to debate me on the slave trade narrative. And I'm going to tell you right now, any type of study, anything that they do on us, they're always going to say, oh, they came from the transatlantic slave trade. They are descendants of that. So any historical research that's done on our people, they're not going to base it off us being in America already. They're always going to base it off of the narrative of the transatlantic slave trade with no proof, just numbers. I always tell people, like, we have no accounts of this experience. You can say millions died. You can make up whatever excuse you want. But there is no ancestor of ours that has passed down any information from this so-called alleged event. And it's interesting that when us as so-called Black people, so-called African Americans, or what have you, want to embrace our American roots, there's an issue there because somehow we're supposed to have an unrealistic tie to a place that whole time we never even came from. That we were always here, that I guess the 300,000 turned into 45 million people today. I find it interesting. So yeah, like I know the title probably looked like I was about to come in and start going in on people and all that. It's damn near 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, it is. Oh, excuse me, it's 8:03. It's 8:03. I ain't about to be up here on no rah-rah shit at 8 in the morning. Now, I'm just letting it be known that what I bring to the table, the enemy's public, OTK, whoever, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's information is valuable. Everybody's perspective is valuable. And just because you don't agree, that doesn't mean disrespect shouldn't, rear its ugly head. And I think that that's an issue around here, you know. So I believe in standing apart as an individual, you know, and rocking with me, you know, and rock with who rock with me. There we go. And that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? Hmm. I don't disagree. They're all intertwined with the United States and the corporation. That's why those particular 5 tribes are the only tribes that are recognized on a federal level. I'm hip. And that's why everything else has been dispelled and disbanded, or, you know, whatever they want to claim happened. But I want y'all to listen to this for a second, because I really thought that this was interesting.
That person, my great-grandfather. This is the mom, which is where my Cherokee comes from. Her mom is half Cherokee, her grandfather. My great-grandfather is full-blood Cherokee. This is on one of my grandmother's visits to Seattle when I was a little girl. This is my grandmother here, my mom. And our travels down south, standing in front of the car. I think this is in front of my grandmother's. And the other person in the picture is my sister. My grandmother, I never heard her talk about being Indian as much as, you know, I don't really recall them talking about our heritage.
Now let's stop there, because we know that we hear a lot of people within the paradigm, and also just anyone, always say we never heard our grandmother speak about it, even though it was always there. They never spoke about it. And it's the reason why. Like all that, oh, why would she talk about it? It's reasons behind that.
As much until she passed away. Our family's really spread out from New Orleans to what they call the country. Hoping to take a trip this summer, get more information about, you know, the family and the lineage and everything.
The best advice I received from an elder when I struggled with being mixed race was to be asked, so which one of your grandmothers then is unworthy of you recognizing her? And that really struck home for me. That there is no grandmother that you can look at, no matter what color you are, no matter what background you come from. There isn't a time where you can look at one of your grandmothers and say, her Irish heritage is unworthy of me, or her Black heritage is unworthy of me. I define myself as a Muskogee Creek woman of African American and Irish Scot descent. I was adopted transracially, and my parents were white, and I also had a Korean daughter and a white son. For me, my personal experience, I felt very cocooned by the urban Native community. There seemed to be a responsibility by those Natives that were my parents' age to ensure that I was part of the community because I had been adopted out. I think what's weird for me is that I'm not considered African American enough for people to watch what they say around me in Indian country. So the N word is used in front of me because the reasoning is, what do you care? It shouldn't bother you at all. Look at you. and it does bother me. But for the most part, I
Damn it, my fault, y'all. Can y'all hear me? Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. My bad. I don't know how the hell that happened. Okay. Let me put it back up here. Put a one in the chat if you can hear the queen. I'm sorry, y'all. Damn. Go back a little bit.
you mixed with Black or not? Are you Native or not? The children are not considered African American enough for people to watch what they say around me in Indian country. So the N word is used in front of me because the reasoning is, what do you care? It shouldn't bother you at all. Look at you. And it does bother me. But for the most part, I would find that in the urban Indian communities, it's really not about anti-African American sentiment. It's pro-Native sentiment. Are you Native or not? They don't care whether you're mixed with Black or not. Are you Native or not? The children, I think sometimes they think I'm too hardlined or too traditional. And then in other ways, they're even more traditional. When my older daughter got her hair cut, she was just mortified that they had to cut her hair. And she was very concerned about making sure that the hair was properly taken care of by somebody in our community. And yet she had to endure the misunderstandings that go with going into a Black hair salon and saying, I need you to keep all this hair and I need you to put it in a bag and don't, touch it and don't, mix it with other hair. And having the people that are there want to, be interested. Y'all doing some voodoo stuff in there? Y'all doing, what are you going to do? And that kind of realization that, you're looking across the table at a Black person talking to you. And usually as a Black Indian, you're thinking, well, now I can tell you're Black Indian, but you know nothing about your heritage. And this moment right here in the hair salon is a moment that's a cultural difference. And my mother being an Irish Scott Creek, my father being a Black Creek. When you start to see yourself with pride attached to it, it then allows you to start to realize, if I don't have the pride now, my daughters and my son won't have the pride later. If I don't maintain it, I will be that Black girl's grandmother on the wall that she walks past and says, see my Indian grandmother with her long hair and her cheekbones. I don't know what tribe, I don't know her name, but I know she's Indian. That's my biggest fear. I don't want my kids to have so little interest in who I am.
Now, she said something very key. She didn't want her children to walk past her grandmother on the wall and her being able to say, instead of actually being in tune with who she is or who we are, we have to say, that's my Indian grandmother, like it's a difference or something. Like, these people have completely mauled over the heritage, and we've been almost forcibly separated, and we know that. And we've been separated from who we truly are. And ultimately, the so-called Black Americans or the African Americans have definitely created a heritage that is their own, that is our own, because we have never been allowed to embrace who we are truly because of false narratives, the lies of this system, the lies of K-12 education. And I just thought this is very interesting. This came out in 2006, y'all. So this came out damn near 20 years ago. And even then, it's an issue, right? So let's keep going.
I am and who they are and who their grandmothers were. that I become that picture on that wall. Stop thinking of us as the joke. She's got good hair. She must have Indian in her. You know, stop thinking of us as the unique person at powwow. Because in Indian country, we're not unique. Everybody that's native, that's grown up native, will tell you that they either have a relative who's black, or, you know, that they grew up on the res with a black Indian that didn't speak a word of English or whatever. Our experience is unique, and we've been here longer than a lot of people, and as long as most people, and we have the right to be recognized as a unique and individual group of ethnic people. If you want to know who you are as an Indian person, then you have to start, and that is by understanding what Indian people are going through now and today. If you don't understand the Native community, but you are of Native descent, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be part of the Native community, but you have to be willing to put in the work.
I know who I am, and society is so judgmental based on how we look. So everybody else sees me, I'm sure, you know, as a black woman, I think, you know. Some of the things that I've learned in the Native classes that I've taken, and in my research and doing some reading, and how it kind of upset me to find out that Native people aren't very accepting of Africans, and even within the African community and within the Native community, we have our own prejudices and our own animosities towards each other. I didn't even realize that the same thing that happens in the African American community happens in the Native community, of light skin, dark skin, you know, people thinking they're better than others. And I'm like, well, why would I want to identify with people that don't even want me, you know, or want to identify or allow me to identify with them? And so that was sort of the thing that I'm now battling with. Before, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to say this and then I'm this. Now it's like, well, that's not how I'm viewed or perceived or accepted, which even being a black woman, being accepted in society is, you know, difficult. I'm not going to shun who I am, but I might start checking other on my applications, you know, I don't know. This is something I'm kind of working through still.
Oral tradition among the Mohegan Pequot, because Mohegan and Pequot originally were one people, and the same language and traditions and everything. The Mohegan Pequot came into this area of southern New England around the turn of the century, from 1500 to 1600, and they hadn't been here that long in the area before the Pilgrims landed in 1620. They stole the land from the native people that were here, but they stole the man to work it. So the only way the land of opportunity could ever take place would be to bring in a stock of slaves, because they could never work the land to produce.
Y'all see how twisted up the story is? And this is back in 06. You see how twisted up it is. Like, their idea of any other amalgamated group or any other color or anything like that came by way of slavery. And that's just false. That's just false. And I think it's so sad that people that can connect themselves and all of that, it's sad that it's an issue. It's sad that it was an issue then, and it's sad that it was an issue now. And they've created this whole native identity versus an holistic indigenous identity. And I find it very interesting and very weird. And, you know, it's just, to me, all around racism, all around prejudice. You know, and when we talk about these people who settled here and were able to take claim of an identity that wasn't theirs and to cover it up with this idea that you had to bring people in to work the land and all of that, it's sick. And if you don't have the discernment to be able to identify it for yourself, you know what I'm saying? You'll take what some of these people are saying literally. And these are just people's experiences, okay? So I'm not here to judge people's experiences, judge what they've been told, judge what they've learned. But at the same time, the history got to change. Because somebody said Trump is deporting Native Americans. You're right. You're right. And Native American is what this country recognizes. That doesn't mean that they're Native American. I mean, they are Native American because of what the country recognizes, but that doesn't mean they're indigenous to the land. That doesn't mean that these folks of Asian descent or these folks of Hispanic descent are the true original people. So I just want to be clear.
It was all that it was capable of without that taking place. What happened after they brought in the African slaves in such large numbers, more and more intermarriage took place as there was less and less of a distinctly Indian presence, and you had more and more of the mixtures, or mulattoes, as it shows in the census records. Mulatto, I hate that term because it's just an umbrella to sweep all Indian people under. And then there was after that term came about, then they came up with the term colored. And that was another big umbrella to sweep all the Indian people under. Anything so they wouldn't have to put the word Indian in the record books. So what they couldn't accomplish with the torch and the gun, they hoped to accomplish with the stroke of a pen. And it's for that reason I reject totally the label of Black Indian, because I've seen people use that term. I've seen some of our own people use it themselves, but usually it's an externally applied term. And I reject that totally. As long as there are blonde-headed Mohawks and blue-eyed Cherokees who are not identified as Euro-Indians, why should any Indian that has any Black ancestry be identified as a Black Indian? What's good for the goose has to be good for the gander, but it's just a reflection of the racism that's in this society in general. When this whole idea of recognition, federal recognition, started to manifest itself, the government was basically holding up a hoop that we all had to jump through as tribes. And so if you couldn't make it through, or if you're almost making it through, and they decided to raise it higher, you had to jump higher and do even more tricks. So it ends up with a process where mountains and mountains of detailed documentation has to be put together to submit to the very same people who have spent all of their time here on your land trying to stop your existence. That's essentially what the recognition process is, in a nutshell. What a lot of our people do here when people come and they want to put us down because we have mixed blood and they don't like the way the mixture is, that instead of putting us down, we need to be given a lot of credit. The fact that we still have been able to remain Indian after over 300 years of every attempt on heaven's earth to destroy us as Indian people. I think we have a great deal of right to be proud in our sense of Indianness that we still retain, because the easiest thing in the world is to be absorbed, you know? It doesn't take any strength at all to do that, because you've got forces on either side that's waiting to just absorb you. But to remain Indian, that's the hardest thing. And but survival is a beautiful thing.
At first, I felt kind of a little uncomfortable, kind of like I wasn't really welcome. But kind of walking through a little bit and feeling pulled, you know, like I want to participate and want to be a part of it, but can't. There was an older woman that walked in that I was looking at. As soon as she walked in, I thought of my grandmother. And I think a lot of the older women, their features remind me of my grandmother and make me realize how much Native blood she had in her, and I didn't really realize it. But
I see a lot of it more in the older women. Once I felt more comfortable knowing more about my history, and probably connecting more with my native culture and some people in the community, I'd feel a little bit more like I would belong. But I think that would help.
And what the gentleman was speaking on prior to her is 100% correct, with the exception of, like I said, this whole idea that your color comes from being an African, or your color comes from some type of African admixture. And that's just another way to blot you out. That's just another way to take you out of history and to take you out of who you are. And that's why this whole identity crisis and issue is such an ongoing thing. And we have to continue to deal with people trying to shun us, especially when we come into information. You know, like, this is old, y'all. Like I said, 20 years old. But, you know, it's just different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, to me, some of it is a little bit obviously incorrect. You know what I'm saying? But I think that what we can take from that is that with a stroke of a pen, this was done. And others that weren't even here, as you can see on this screen, these other people, you know, they weren't even here. But somehow they've been allowed to embrace a culture that's not even theirs. And us, these so-called Black folks, these so-called African Americans, have been subjugated to creating an identity and life for themselves, one outside of their true indigenous roots.
I think I've become very comfortable with myself because of my family. And I would probably give all the credit to my grandmother. She always worked hard to make sure that kids were happy. She always gave everything to make kids feel empowered. So when I think about how much she gave and how much time she spent in teaching kids beading and culture and cooking, I mean, I'd credit a lot of that to her. Well, I was born and raised my whole life on the Makah Indian Reservation in Neah Bay. You know, I can't think of a better place to raise your children in terms of having your family there. I mean, just living in the city and you see so many people suffer and do without. Just growing up in Neah Bay, we're all such a tight-knit community that there was always food on the table. People were always warm, and everybody opened their houses up to each other. So it's just a very loving, very giving, very friendly community. Just a lot of people that would give, you know, their last dime to you if you ever need anything. And I lived with my mother and my two sisters, Justina and Helona, and my father, Ernest Grimes. So pretty much grew up knowing that I was from the Parker family. Nobody ever really shined light on the fact that I was also African American and Irish, because everybody in Neah Bay was basically Makah, and the school was 99.9% Makah. We were Makah, so the only difference was we had curly hair and everybody else had long hairs. And then when I went away to college, I found myself more so gravitating towards African American people, because that's how everybody off the reservation viewed me. Nobody had no clue I was born and raised on the reservation. And I had a lot of girlfriends who were African American. And some of them said I was more white acting, or I really was more Indian than I was Black. And that was kind of the first time I had anybody really question or challenge me, when really I didn't think it mattered, because I knew who I was. I don't have any children right now, but I do have nieces and nephews. And, you know, we always share with them family songs so that they can sing them and hopefully one day dance to them. And my sisters always make it a point to bring them back home to Neah Bay. to participate in the cultural dance practices. And when our family when we have a potlatch or something, make sure we go home and participate in that as much as we can, even though we live so many miles away from the reservation. But one big thing is, growing up in the city, their teachers don't know that they're Indian. They don't know that when they probably hear them talk about Neah Bay all the time, just don't really know who they are. So they don't really stand up and celebrate their native side because they pretty much identify as Native, and the teachers think of them as African American.
I'm Katia Brown. I'm 10 years old and I'm in 4th grade. My name is Trehalo and I'm 7 turning 8 this year, and I am in 2nd grade.
Hi, my name's Freddie and I'm 6 years old, but I'm turning 7 and my birthday's in July 13th.
So what tribe do you belong to?
Neah Bay. Macaw. Neah Bay tribal.
Do people think that what do they think you are in school?
Some people call me Mexican.
What about you, Freddie? What do they call you?
Nothing.
What about you, Tia?
Black.
What do you tell them?
I say I'm not all black. I'm Native American, Irish, and black.
So get it right, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Thing that I've always tried to teach, my students, that nobody can take away from you who you are or what you're all about. People can say mean things to you. They can try to belittle you or degrade you or talk about what you're wearing, or they can talk about what you look like, but they can't take away who you are, your identity, in terms of knowing that, like knowing I'm Macaw and knowing that my father's African American and I'm proud of that, or knowing my grandfather's Irish and knowing my grandmother was Indian and she
don't even know that her father was the real Indian. Okay. This is really mind-blowing to me. This really was, because this has been such a struggle for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it is a problem. It is a big, big, big problem, because the people who feel like they're immersed in a quote native identity think they got the right to tell you who you are. And no one has the right to do that. 99% of these people they call it African Americans today are the Indians, no question, right? It's just interesting to me, you know what I'm saying, that based off how you look, based off what type of culture you might have grown up in, it's just, it determines how people accept you and look at you and view you, and it's wrong. Now, me personally, I know for a fact that the bloodlines are all jumbled up because of stuff like this, because of this stuff here. And people don't know which way to go or which way to see themselves. And we've been totally disconnected. And I'm going to keep saying it. We've been extremely disconnected from who we are as a people. And it's wrong. And then we have all these ideas around a socially constructed idea of race and who's an American, who's not. I think that it's a fine line here that we tread, and we're treading it only because we know who we truly are. But when these types of documentaries are being produced, it's going to always be some type of issue when it comes down to who the people are, what happened to the people, and how did all of these other people begin to amalgamate themselves. The older man said it. Why are so-called Black folks being called Black Indians when they're just Indians? Why aren't the white, quote, natives being called Euro Indians? Why are they not being called that? And then you got all the other Indians outside of these reservations, you know, being called Negroes, African Americans, coloreds, mulattoes, all of this shit. And they wonder why we're sitting around here arguing, fussing, and fighting about identity. And this is 06. So keep that in mind when y'all listening to this, to understand where they were, how they felt, and what have you. Because like I said, I find it extremely, extremely interesting, all of it. And I got a couple more too. So y'all just walk with me for a second.
She was a proud Indian woman who overcame so much just for the sake of our family. So that's huge. I think it's often said that somebody like me who is triracial has to consistently prove not only to the Native people I'm Native and I do care about my culture, but to the African American people, I'm very upfront. I'm willing to learn about it. I mean, I only know what my father and grandparents have given me, you know, but I'm never going to be more Black than Indian. And I don't try to be.
About things that happen in your life and how you respond to things, or you're a strong person, where does that come from? And looking now into my history, it's like, okay, I come from a very strong background. You know, African Americans have always been strong people, and so are Native Americans. So I can't help acting sometimes the way that I do. In the African community and within the Native community, there's so many similarities just in history, I guess. Even though the experience is different, the feeling of what came out of that.
There's so many similarities. Yeah, the similarities are there because these people have literally intertwined themselves in something that was never theirs to begin with. Yeah, the similarities are there because really you got one group of people who fully embody it and know, you know what I'm saying, that boom, we are an amazing people who's been scrubbed away from an indigenous lineage. And then you, on the other hand, we got the $5 footlongs, ancestors and lineage that continue to perpetuate stereotypes, narratives that aren't true, that ultimately feels good to them, while simultaneously erasing us from it. It's wild to me.
I'm certain very, similar.
Well, in my own mind, if you are of Indian blood, I mean, you're Indian. That's pretty much it. If you're of blood, you're of blood. I'm very, embarrassingly, I'm very Eurocentric in a lot of my habits and so on. But that ethnically doesn't change who I am. My father's a Yoruba. In the Pacific community he comes from in South Carolina called the Geechee or Gullah people. The other side of his family is Kitawa. And as far as my mother goes, her grandfather was an Ilocano slave in the railroad here in the 1800s. And when they weren't, necessary anymore, when they were setting up the reservation system in Oklahoma, he was dragged in with a lot of other Filipinos, and they were just marked as native. In his case, he was thrown in with the Cherokee, otherwise known in all languages, the Kitawa people, and married my great-grandmother, and that was that. When I was in kindergarten, they had a color chart on the wall with, the basic stuff, red, green, blah, blah, blah. And we had to write a page on, who we were. So I had to write my name and, what country I lived in, such and such, and what I was. So I said that I was an orange person because I was going on the list, the color list that was above the closet. And the teacher called me up to the desk and it's like, you can't say that you're orange. There's no such thing as an orange person. And I'm like, yeah, there is. They're brown people. And I pointed to other children in the class and I said, they're whites. And there was one, And I said, there's other, tan. And I pointed to a couple of, Puerto Rican, girls that were in the class and stuff. And I'm like, that's me. I'm orange. Because as far as I was concerned, I looked orange, right? So that was the closest thing. And even though, I was a child and it was kind of laughed off as, by some people anyway, that it was, it's a little innocent thing, isn't that cute? Other people were very, very upset by it. My mother was not happy by it. Her thing was, you're black. We live in a black neighborhood. Your father's black. You're black. That's it. And, maybe 2 or 3 days later on a Friday, if I remember correctly, I was brought into the principal's office and I had to talk to a psychologist that was trying to, this woman who was to convince me that I was a black person, that there was no such thing as orange. And I told her that my father might be black, but my mother's Indian and, my grandma's Indian. And, we always talk about it in the house being Indian. And it's like, some of us are orange, and it's like, well, why do I have to say that I'm this and I'm that? I'm like, I'm not a black person. I'm not like that. And I pointed to something in the office and we were in there for a few hours, and it came to that they couldn't convince me. So I actually had to go and see a professional because I had a problem.
You see how sad it is? That's sad that they felt like that boy needed professional help because of the conversations that he was having in his home were being contradicted in his kindergarten classroom. And gosh, like imagine having to deal with that. And it just goes to show like that, quote, this idea of color is the determination of everything. Reclassification, you right. Color caste systems, you right, Juan, 100%. It's a problem.
My circumstances were such that, I had gotten so much, trouble for trying to be open about being, Native African and so on, that it got to the point where I couldn't really fight it anymore. So around my first year of high school, I met my first white kids. I went to a vocational high school and I became a super Uncle Tom. I tried to be as white as possible. Even went to the point of spraying my hair blonde for a while, all that bullshit, and you got white guys laughing at me like crazy, but I was trying, like hell. And that lasted until I was about 26. Had some people in my apartment, and while we're drinking wine and cheese and trying to be bourgeois, they flat out got tipsy and told me how they really felt about me. They're like, you're an exceptional, person of color, but you're still of color, you're not really on our level, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I realized all that ass kissing I did didn't do a damn thing, So I did another 360, and I'm pretty much right back where the hell I started from as far as that goes. Because if you can't accept me for what I am, I think I'm a hell of a nice person, and I have a lot to give. So it's like, if you don't want to deal with that because of your confusion over what I am, which is leading to my confusion, then I really don't need you around.
It's cheese. It's hard to describe the feeling, but it was like once I saw the names, I'm like, oh, there's, it's like, yeah. It's like, look, Mama was right. So it's really cool just to have, everything kind of, come together. It's kind of like putting a quilt together, So it's pretty cool. So, this is my great-grandfather. He was married to Loretta, and that his daughter Juanita, and a son Robert, and a stepdaughter Vanilla. And I'm going to print it. My Cherokee heritage is not listed on there, and I think back then people wanted things to be as simple as possible. So you were either Black or not. So it didn't matter if you had Native heritage. I think I will find my Cherokee heritage. Now that I actually have more information, I can ask more questions, better questions, to get more details, I think.
I had a lot of support and concern about my Native American heritage from my grandmother. My mother and father was very casual about it. They didn't press it. But my grandmother was very conscious of this and making aware that I was aware of it. The town I lived in, which is called Amityville, was part Shinnecock and Afro-American. The whole town at that time. The family next door would practice their Native American culture continuously, and I was not, even though my grandmother talked about it a lot. And I said, oh, those Indians next door. She slapped me hard and picked me up and hugged me. I can still feel the slap, but also enjoy the hug. And to remind me the fact that I was Native American and never be involved with a prejudice statement, right? I started painting as very early. It was very instinctive. Then I went to Europe. At the same time, there was discovery about my Native American, African heritage, because I was on the outside looking in at my culture in Europe. And so when I returned, that's when I became more dedicated and involved with the creative process, and with the dual culture is what I'm really concerned about, which is very similar in many ways in the United States. Even though the African heritage is part from Africa, but the Native American heritage is the land here, and how much the Afro-Americans go back to 500 years being here, right? And how much that becomes the heritage of Afro-Americans in this land. And so in the dual culture of them becoming Afro-American, Native American is very unbelievable, very sensitive, very spiritual. I did a lecture at the Smithsonian.
I think that's the biggest problem. It's a big problem. It's a problem, family. Oh, that this ain't got too much longer to go on it. Then, I want to pull something else back up and kind of elaborate on that a little bit too.
And I was expressing the fact I'm Afro-American, Native American. And I asked, since half of the audience was Afro-American, and I asked how many in the audience are part Native American. Almost all the blacks in the audience raised their hand. And after they put their hands down, there's a man stood up in the back and says, the only reason I didn't put up my hand because I don't know, which has to do with many. They just have no idea and know anything about that. So I was surprised that all these Afro-Americans in the audience raised their hand. How much do they know about that dual culture? So at the end, with the talk was over.
It was a forced dual culture. I wanted this man still alive.
And I met a lot of people. I asked some of them. They said, well, I know my grandmother said this, my father and grandfather said that, and my mother said this, and the fact it was part of Native American.
It always goes back to grandma. It always goes back to grandma. And it always will.
American culture there, and some of them mentioned the tribes, and they said, so why? But they don't live by that, where I live by this dual culture. And it's really part of my painting. In recent years, I realized what the various influences are in terms of color and patterns of design and composition. It was related to some of these early exposures as a youngster to Native American quilting and designing and painting, and how much in Afro-American culture quite involved with a very similar kind of sensibility. So when they both come together, I guess that is my world and that's my identity. It's all subconscious now, and it just comes out at the end of the brush.
It didn't seem real that I was actually graduating. This was the main mark in my life. My trip, I'll be headed to Louisiana, which is where my mother's family is from, and my grandmother's the Cherokee blood that I've been researching, and do some interviews there. I can accept both parts. I have a better understanding of Native community, and yet I still have so much to learn too. So, so I'm open, for anything to happen now. And I think a lot of it has to do with me finishing school. It's just like, I'm done. Now I can do more things and I can find out and spend more time, so. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
All right. So it's crazy. Hi, Mary Guy. Peace to you, sis. Peace to Akamak. Peace to Juan Truth. Peace to y'all. Now, look, I think every single person who interviewed on that particular documentary that came out in 2006 made it a point to identify it or describe it or explain it as this idea of a dual heritage or a dual culture and the similarities between the two, as if there's a true difference between the two. I think that what people understand as the difference between the two is the idea of the slave trade narrative. And that's why that has to get debunked. It has to get debunked to a point where it's not in our history books. It's our children are not being taught that lie. Because there is no way that all of these so-called Black people can say that their heritage is indigenous and heard it from a family member, heard the whispers in their family about the same idea or notion, and somehow we've allowed ourselves to be scraped away from history due to this subjugated idea of being some type of slave. And I think it's really, really sick and disgusting. It's really, really sick. Even when that young lady was in the census, she even said that she couldn't find her, quote, Cherokee ancestry in the census. Yeah, because they were all Negroes. Yeah, because they were all colored. Yeah. That's why I have such a problem with Walter Plecker. And that's why I always talk about, I think more recently now, this idea of the admixture that came along and people who intermixed with us, the people who were already here, because I think that brings upon another set of identity clauses and identity issues that we have to deal with when you're talking about accepting all of who you are. Excuse me, that's my family group chat. They be early in the morning with the fuck shit. And yes, sis, we've been duped. We have, big time. And you're not about to say because somebody is brown in complexion that they must be African. You can't say that. When even if you want to say this idea of the slave trade is true, 500 years? Come on now. 500 years. It's outrageous. And instead of us picking fights with each other and all of this unnecessary stuff, we need to be getting back into the identity and accept our place as the original people, accept our place as the indigenous people, because that's just what it is.
Is brought to you in part by A. Reddix & Associates, a healthcare management consulting firm bridging the gap between healthcare policy and the community through education, training, and outreach. Find out more at ardx.net. Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Tonight, a lesson on the Cherenhaka Nottoway Indian tribe and how a man named Walter Ashby Plecker forever changed the relationship between Native Americans and African Americans in Southampton County, Virginia. Please welcome to Another View Chief Walt Red Hawk Brown, Chief of the Cherenhaka Nottoway tribe, William Lamb Spread Eagle Howell, War Chief of the tribe, and Dr. Tommy Bozier, historian at Norfolk State University. Welcome to the program,
Well,
gentlemen.
thanks for having us, Barbara. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Now, I wanted, before we get into the details of Mr. Plecker and kind of what happened, because basically your tribe has experienced what's some called documentary genocide. Tell us a little bit about the beginning of the tribe.
Well, as you're aware, in 1912, Dr. Walter Plecker became the first director of the Bureau of Vital Statistics. Prior to that, there were no birth certificates, and he was a director up until the 1940s, 1946, until his death. But he was part of the eugenics movement, which was a movement about creating one race of people, which was white, and everything else was put in a pot, as Tina Marie would say, and stir it up and call colored. But he went beyond board on that, wherein as far as first Americans are concerned, he changed birth certificates and marriage license. He even put out letters to.
And then I always had a problem with this particular gentleman speaking, because I'll explain.
Census takers in 1930, that people such as myself that are first Americans and Native Americans, that he considered us as being bastards, that we were just trying to be Indian to marry into the white race. What's so interesting about that was that in the 30s, he gave a presentation in New York City and on eugenics, and there were commanders associated with Adolf Hitler that attended that particular meeting.
But basically, when he was the registrar for the Bureau of Vital Records, he changed the names of Indian people in Southampton County,
exactly,
their race from Indian to Negro or colored.
So it was referred to as colored, and basically all the.
No, see, he trying to be a this one right here. I didn't really like him, but it was definitely changed to Negro, colored, mulatto. We all know that. And you think that they was looking at you and calling you a Negro, sir? Calling you a mulatto, sir? Stop it.
The tribes in Virginia in the early 1900s were referred to as colored, okay? Then after the 1924 Racial Integrity Act, everything that was in that colored bowl became Negro, okay? And that's one of the reasons why in 1968, the Supreme Court overthrew that Racial Integrity Act and gave Native Americans the right, if they were born before July 1960, to come forward to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and correct those records that had been changed.
But now your tribe was in Southampton County well before all of this.
Of course.
Okay.
Matter of fact, our history really dates back, according to some archaeologists, to 900 AD. But we have a archaeological dig that was done in Southampton County, which dates back, carbon dated, to 1580. In that particular dig, it's called the Handsite dig, and it's called catalog 44SN22. 131 skeletal remains of my ancestors were dug up, and they're now laying in shoeboxes in the Smithsonian. One of the goals.
My man next to him, man, he look upset.
That we have with our Catasharak town that we're putting together is to have those reinterred, brought back to the county. But what's so interesting about that is that one of the grave remains has been carbon dated to be a colonial lady, about 25, 26 years old. And in her grave, it was 6 foot buried, 6 foot down. There was her sewing kit, her comb, and also the scissors, which are on file at the Department of Historical Resources in Richmond, Virginia. So the history is documented. We are the only tribe in the Commonwealth of Virginia that ever had a gubernatorial mandated special census. As you know, the census is done every year starting 1790, every 10 years. There was a special census done in Southampton County in Cortland, Virginia, at that time was called Jerusalem, wherein the trustees of the reservation went out and actually recorded the names of individuals living on the reservation, even though they didn't document everybody living there, because they coined this term matrilineal. And if the woman was a mulatto, or if the woman was referred to as free people of color, and if the male was a Cherokee Nottoway, they didn't count the children. So they coined matrilineal instead of patrilineal. But the history is very rich there in Southampton County.
Now, War Chief Howell, if someone looked at you right now, they would say that you were African American, would they not? Now, your grandfather, though, was supposed to have been, according to records.
Well, he was.
Oh, he was the last. Well, no, but according to, he wasn't the last of the Nottoway, of the Cherokee Nottoway tribe, though. Tell us about him.
Well, my grandfather, he passed away in 1960, and I was born in 1947, and he married. It was a black woman, and they had one child, which was my mother. But I had a chance to meet him, and because I was a young fellow when he passed away, and he was kind of a quiet man. He didn't hardly say anything, and now it's coming clear as why he was so quiet, because what happened to his people. And
did he talk to you about your heritage?
No, yeah. I used to ask my mother. I said, "Why is my grandfather so quiet?" He never had much to say, and it's coming pretty clear to me as why he was so quiet.
Because at that time, they did not talk about being Indians because you could be jailed, correct?
Exactly. There was a lot of bad things that could have happened to you if you were Native and if you were caught off.
See, this one right here is if he's a $5 general, a $5 general Indian, bro. This man here literally was overtaking the conversation, being very overbearing. And if he think for 1 second that the people that were being put in those categories look like him, he done lost his godforsaken mind. He done lost his godforsaken mind. And this is insane to me, right? Because we all know, oh my God, this is the problem. And this is why I'm trying to show this again and just understand where the confusion is coming in at, where the identity politics is at play. All of these different things are at play based off of lookership. Plecker is a dusty ass bigot on the code, okay? Let's be very clear. And this man here, and like she gonna say, so his father was supposed to have been the last. He was the last. According to records, we all love to go off of records. But when it comes to a person that may be a little bit rich in tone, that, oh, we can't stand up for that, or we can't verify that. But we have no problem accepting someone who looks like this as a so-called Indian. But they can accept this, because I don't. And when we're talking about a place like Virginia, how the hell you about to say how you about to even speak when your folks wasn't even here? You're not your kind, sir. Outrageous.
The reservation. In some cases, you could be shot on sight. Okay. But getting back to William Lamb, who Paramore and Floyd Painter, Paramore wrote the history of Southampton County, said was the last Cherokee Nottoway riding a bicycle in Cortland. Again, we know that was not true, because William Lamb Howard, who was my ward.
How is he saying that that's not true, though? And you got the right to sit up there and say that it's not true based on what?
Chief is his grandson. But that's just typical of what happened to first Americans in the Commonwealth. How things were done to actually change, not only to change one's race, but to change one's ethnicity, to take away their traditions, to take away their cultures, etc. And I'd like to go back to the 1808 Cherokee Nottoway Indian census, to my fifth foster great-grandmother, who was Queen Edith Turner. Her name was really Wane Runsira, but the whites called her Turner. And the names, the colonial names, were given to us the same basically as the slave mentality.
The slaves were,
If your mother was a slave and living on a reservation, that means your child was a slave, and that you took on the name of the master. So what had happened with Native people, we didn't have colonial names. We had Native names. My fourth great-grandmother's name was Carahoot.
I think he's just running his dick suckers. Because the act of racial integrity was based on creating two races. And the idea of keeping white racial purity a thing. And it's very interesting that he would totally dismiss this man's ancestors next to him and try to make it seem like, no, but my grandmother was this, my folks was this. Did it? What are you even saying, sir? That none of that shit's on the record.
That was her native name, but when they did the census, they pinned her as being Mary Polly Whitson, who married Pearson's Turner and became Mary Turner and went over to Artistown in 1825, along with the Bozeman, the Browns, the Artists, the Boones, and the Whitsons, and just stayed there until the early 1990s.
So if you look at the records, then you would think that there would be no Indians in Southampton County of Cherahaka Nottoway Indians, but we know that there are. So when did this shift change for people to start researching and accepting their native heritage?
Well, I give you an example of my family. My grandfather had 18 kids, okay? And he always shared with us of a native heritage. His wife was Ophelia Rogers. That was my father's mother. She was the granddaughter of Alex Rogers, that is listed on the 1808 Cherahaka Nottoway Indian census, who was tried for murder in 1820 and found guilty of second-degree murder. Did 12 years of hard labor, got out, and went into Nansemond County, married, and went over to Hertford County. But at that time, Native people could not testify for each other. I have the whole court case. It was really self-defense. Now, Native people, my people, were classified as mulatto. Okay. Now that was a term that not necessarily mean half white, half black, or half Indian, half white, or half Indian, half black. It was a term that the colonials created back in the early 1700s, and in reality, in many cases.
Why he lying? Why is he lying like this? Why he is listen, Mo. He is lying so bad. Your people, you talking like, ooh. See, this is what I mean by how much of a mess this really is, family. This is a mess. You know, you can't do nothing but laugh because it's so sad. Sitting up here lying. Oh my God. Oh my God, y'all. Ooh. Yes, y'all better get y'all popcorn because this is ridiculous. How the fuck you about to say that the term mulatto was invented in the 1700s? Stop lying. We didn't get our first census until 1790. So what you mean? And mulatto was not a racial category at that time. So how you sitting up here lying? $5 general.
It means purebred Native American. And that term mulatto, I mean, the first one was 1824, the first Racial Integrity Act, 1824, and then 1924 was the last one in Virginia that was brought about during the Pleckism. So when you're doing genealogical searches, unless you can talk to your ancestors, your parents, your grandmothers, great grandmothers, and I tell people when I do presentations, talk to your people and ask from whence came I, so I can know how far I still have to go. Okay, because. Go ahead.
Let me ask Dr. Bozier. Talk to me about the relationship then, as Indians started to assimilate into other culters because they weren't recognized on their own. What was happening back then?
Yes, and especially when I was growing up, there was standoffish between the Indian Native American community and the African American community because of what had happened to them with past relationships, and the Plecker and Dr. Plecker's very active role in the 1920s. So there was, and of course, that has always been the case in the history of any organization. The majority group tend to divide those minorities and keep them separated.
But is the relationship any better? Has it changed?
Sure, the relationship is better. A lot of us as First Americans were amalgamated into schools for free people of color. Okay, I remember my first time going to school. I walked.
And see, what's so sad about it is they barely directed any questions to the true Indian in the middle, who literally comes from a chief. And then y'all want to sit over here and make he like he's really speaking like my people. He's speaking as if it's him and not the Negroes or the coloreds, if you will. It's diabolical, family. And I do agree with one thing. We do need to talk to our family more. We do need to have these conversations around what it really means. Because I think that, like I was saying earlier, that the story of slavery and this idea around that has people thinking that they are something else. And it's sickening. This man is clearly an Asian or something like that. You know what I mean? You are not a first American. That's right, Bad Saint. At all. And then, you know, like when she was talking to the gentleman in the middle, it's like, oh, well, your grandfather was supposedly a chief. But her language and rhetoric when she was speaking to the first person in the blue was not the same way. She's speaking to him as if he's the true native or he's the true indigenous person versus the person in the middle who actually has a real connection. And this is where the issue comes in. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know for a fact that what the Racial Integrity Act did, because we know what happened during European settlement and different things like that, a lot of shit is already jumbled up. It's already jumbled up, and it's a problem. But to sit, this lady an African. I don't care what nobody say. She an African. But as far as who the quote Negroes are in this land, we are the true indigenous. We are. There was no reason to put an Asian in a colored box when y'all wasn't even here yet. Oh, let me go ahead and let this play. My father calling y'all. Hold on.
2.5 miles a day round trip to a school called Diamond Grove School, founded in 1919 under the Rose Wall. Okay, it was another school that my parents and them went to out of Artisttown. Then it became the Rose Wall School in 1919. It ended in 1957. Okay, so I had to walk to this school, and I walked back and forth. So there's an amalgamation not only between free people of color and native people. There was an amalgamation also between colonials. I mean, that happened. Matter of fact, that was one of the things that William Byrd, who was involved in a dividing line between Virginia and North Carolina, and Alexander Spotswood was trying to amalgamate native people with other races to get rid of the Indians. Now, when you look at the Byrd papers, and you would read his diary on April the 7th, 1728, he actually visited our reservation in Jerusalem, Cortland, Virginia. And what's so interesting about that, he described how our people look. He said the young men came out and their faces were painted and they made all kinds of grotesque figures and they danced for him to the sound of a gore drum stretched tight with an animal skin. Then he said the young women came out and they were tall and shapely and dressed in their finery. Their hair was braided and they had white and blue conch shells in their hair that hung like locks and around their neck. And then they had wrapped around their body a match coat, which was red and blue, which is a shawl that fitted loosely about their body, that their mahogany skin shone through. Then he went. Let me get this. He went on to say that these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. Unquote. That's a quote that he made.
So that was the whole goal was to try to bleach out, as they say.
Yeah, but it kind of tells you that first Americans were a rich brown people. They were mahogany.
First Americans were a rich brown people. Not you. Y'all are not brown. You are not brown, sir. What in the... Sir, there is no way he could think that he was being described that his people was being described. Whose car is going off at 9 a.m.? Shoot. I'm telling you, this is outrageous. And this is what I'm saying, that we have a generation of people, not just my generation, the millennial generation, but we talk about the generations before us and then the generations that have come after us, right? Who are going to continue to have to deal with this crisis of identity, right? It's a problem. Shout out to you, Juice. Hi, baby. I like your photo. You look nice. And yeah, let me read this. When it comes to whitewashing history, we only think skin color, when the first washing in history would have been by European Moors as white. They were the first to come over and write themselves into our indigenous history. That's why Blacks think they are Moors, claiming indigenous to America now. Hey, Agaback, let me tell you something, Agaback. You be tearing the chat up. And I be so here for it. I be so here for it. You really do. You have so much research and so much knowledge. You know, like, you need to email me, because I would love to just bring you up and you could just by yourself. We ain't got to bring nobody up. And you could just kick your shit if you want. That's an open invitation to you. And also too, I was sharing the other day, before I get back into this, right, that I'm going to have the person, his name is David Eltis. And I don't know if y'all been with me for a long time. A lot of y'all already know that when I was doing a lot of bills on this transatlantic slave trade situation, that a lot of his work, you know, was work that I would use in my bills and in my information pieces. And I'm excited to announce that I am going to have him on the platform in a couple of weeks, actually next week, because I'm currently reading his book. You know, I'm not going to read all of it, but I am going to take some things out of it and also allow him to promote his book as well. But, you know, we can talk about these numbers, talk about how they came up with them, you know, and I'm going to ask him some really deep questions about the Slave Voyages website, you know, a lot of different things, because the idea that the only reason why they're trying to amalgamate us to slavery is because of this bullshit story of the transatlantic slave trade. But they don't even talk about this quote white slavery, this quote idea that those were the actual people being picked up, scraped away from their families, snatched away, and even in some contexts voluntarily came to these lands and were slaves. But they want to say, oh, they were indentured. And I think that's just a nice way to cover it up. That's just a nice way to cover up their slavery. And I stand on it. I stand on what I say, family. I don't have time to play with y'all. But his book is called The Atlantic Cataclysm, Rethinking the Atlantic Slave Trades. So trades with an S. So, you know, so far it's an interesting read. We're going to get into a lot of it. And, you know, it's just boiling down to who's creating this history and who are these people that got the right to sit up here and say anything about who the fuck we are. Enough is enough. And ain't shit. And I don't disagree, Akamak. I don't disagree. It's a real issue that's taking place, family. And I don't know, this was on my mind this morning. I ain't gonna hold y'all long. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna hold y'all long at all today. But I just kind of want to get that in y'all heads about these ideas around race, these ideas around identity, the problem with it, why it's such a problem, why people are walking around in a sense of confusion. This is all thanks in part to the transatlantic slave trade and the bullshit behind it. Period. And we're coming into the truth of who we are. There's no way that every so-called Black person grandmother is lying. That's just crazy. When we know what the roots truly touch back to. Shoot, I love y'all too. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all too. I respect all of y'all. You know, everybody that comes in my chat. I love you guys and I appreciate all your love and support. You know, and just a sidebar real quick. A lot of y'all know what took place on April 3rd. You may not know, you know, but unfortunately, my sister, myself, and my grandmother, we were all viciously attacked and stabbed by a man, in my opinion, of Hispanic descent. And it's been really hard for me. And like I said, this is just a sidebar. I've had to take some time to deal with that, you know, seeing my grandmother constantly, you know what I'm saying? One thing about it, y'all, Sue, my girl Sue, will tell you, hey, you're not from Africa. She know. My grandmother would tell you that we not from Africa. So she lying too? And my grandmother ain't finished school all the way through or none of that shit. But she knows she ain't from Africa. Okay. So anyway, back to this, back to what happened. And in light of almost losing my grandmother, almost losing my sister, hell, and almost losing my life, I know that I'm here for a reason. And I'm sorry, y'all. This information means a lot to me. What we've been through as a people is unfair in so many ways, y'all. But I know I'm here for a purpose, and I'm just going to continue on my journey. I think I've never been in a situation where, you know, like I said, I grew up in DC. And Bad Saint, she know about it. You always had to fight. You always had to, you know, defend yourself in a city growing up like ours. Like shit, I grew up throwing bows, all of that shit as a young girl, you know, all because of having long hair down my back, super long, y'all. And I'm gonna show y'all some pictures one day because now I got locks, you know. But I've always had to deal with some type of adversity or some type of something. I'm sure everybody else has as well. You know, I'm not gonna sit up here and act like everyone doesn't have their isolated stories. But in my case, you know, like there was always a situation where I was going through something. And I think never in a million years, y'all, would I have ever thought that a neighborhood that I grew up in as a child, literally played on that same block before gentrification, before everything, right? That I would be attacked by someone who potentially ain't even supposed to be in this country. And that's what I'm trying to get down to the bottom of. And in light of all of that happening to me and my family, I'll never stop doing what I'm doing, you know, until the universe, until, you know, the higher power decide to take breath out of my body. That's the only time I'm gonna stop. And that's why no one can bring me down. And that's exactly why my title is what it is. You know, I definitely believe in being resilient. I definitely believe in, hey, this might have happened, you know, but we still got to keep going and we still got to keep fighting the good fight. And that's correct in this history. I watched these folks completely protect this man's identity. And a lot of people got a reason behind why they might think that is, oh, it's mental health. But I've seen them I've seen them plaster a 17-year-old boy's face all over the screen because he defended himself in a situation with a so-called white man or a white boy. He's a minor. Now, we're talking about a city that's very liberal in sense. DC is a very liberal place. I find it so perplexed that if this was the other way around, that photograph would be everywhere, despite mental health. So don't tell me that they're protecting his identity because of mental health. No. He knew what he was doing when he was coming down that street, trying to take my life, the life of my grandmother, and my sister. And it just put it all in perspective, family, that the race relations in this country is fucked up. And it's fucked up, honestly. And it's sad that I felt like I had to go to the public news. And I don't like being on TV and stuff like that, but I had to go to the news just so that they don't sweep this under the rug as some type of isolated incident or some type of mental health incident. That's why they came on the scene the way that they did, especially when it don't fit the narrative. But I just want to say, before we get back into this, that I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for breath in my body. And I'll never, ever stop this shit. So I just want y'all to put some sunflowers in the chat right now. I didn't mean to get emotional kind of talking about this because it's really been a rough road. One of my cousins ended up taking his life, my first cousin. And then the day before the funeral, and my sister and my grandmother are being viciously attacked. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And it's really been a rough couple of months. But I love being here with y'all, and I love having these conversations with y'all because we need to have them. I know people got upset about me talking about, having distant white relatives and different things like that. I know a lot of people was upset. That's okay. Be upset. We have to take the good, the bad, and the ugly with everything. Yes, and everyone is okay. Shout out to y'all. Thank you so much. Everyone is okay, American Warrior. My grandmother, I picked her up from her rehabilitation center yesterday, and I brought her home, and she was just happy to be back in her apartment, and let me tell y'all something too. What I noticed in this DMV area is that a lot of these people who run these rehabilitation centers, a lot of these people who are in our health field are these Africans who don't give a fuck about us. Do y'all know how much every time I went up there, I had to put the press on these Africans to do their job? Most of the people that are in these types of homes are so-called Black folks, the indigenous people, being treated like trash. You ask them to get water, it take them 30 minutes to get somebody some water. And all they doing is walking around there with motherfucking eyebrows and big BBL booties, a hot mess. And I told her, my grandmother's like, yeah, Sharice, don't be trying to get involved too much. Oh, don't worry. I'm going to get involved, Grandma, because I see the bullshit. I see the bullshit, and I'm not going to ever, not under my watch, see somebody treat my grandmother poorly or other people poorly. because they have a different mindset, and the way they curry shit is unbelievable. It's like, it's crazy. And I'm gonna tell y'all too, even when the situation first occurred and I was taken to Howard University Hospital, and I'll never forget this young lady. She was a clinical nurse, American, and she was just, so frustrated because it seemed as though she was taking all the patients and doing all the work, and they just sitting at the desk talking. She told me this. I said, girl, that's how they are. They think that they got right and privilege over us, the true Americans. And this the bullshit we gotta deal with these people who come into our country, who think that they're above us, that they're better than us. This country ran by foreigners, this government being ran by foreigners, allowing these people to be in spaces of power and opportunity, and then turn around and want to act like the so-called Black person is a lazy person. Man, look, I don't play that shit. And sometimes it may sound like I have a problem with Africans and things like that. I try not to present that as me having a direct problem with them, because I don't. But I do have a problem with the way that they think that they're going to treat my people. And it's really disgusting. It's really disgusting. And that's what I want to talk about next. Is like, I mean, I talked about it once before, like the maternal birth rates and death rates, how many so-called Black women are dying at the hands of these people. Just, I don't want to say too much, you know what I'm saying? But just different things like that kind of play a role into what the issues are. Because I'm telling y'all, the way that we get treated in the hospital by them is not the same way that they treat their own people. I mean, it's sad that more of us aren't doctors. It's sad that more of us aren't represented in these spaces. And when I do see American Black doctor, or so-called American, I mean, not so-called American, a so-called Black doctor, my heart fills with a lot of joy, because I know that this shit is predicated to keep us on the lowest possible scale that they could keep us on. And when we fight outside of that, oh Lord, little Stinky done woke on up. She woke up singing, y'all. But anyway, I can see the prejudice in their attitudes. I can see it in the way that they conduct themselves, everything. I said, there's no way that a place where people should be getting care are barely getting cared for. And I had to make sure my baby was okay. That's why I was up there damn near every day. Because I know how they are. And I was telling my grandmother that. Yeah, she could, man, that thing could sleep. Yeah, she can sleep. I ain't gonna even lie, bad saint. She work hard during the week, okay? My girl act like she got a 9 to 5. But anywho, I mean to sidebar, get y'all, off track, but I just notice their behaviors and their prejudiced attitudes towards us. And it's not fucking right. And that's why we got to stand on business with who we are. And we can't allow people like this man on the screen to tell the story the way he wants to tell it, and totally disregard the true Indian sitting next to him when you're just cosplaying, sir. The cosplaying be real. Do me a favor, y'all. Like, share, subscribe. You know, it's already after 2 hours. I said I was only going to spend 2 hours on here today. So let me go ahead because obviously my little stinky pie is up now. Hey, Carpet Aborigines, Bad Saint, Doggone OD. Yeah. GG. They definitely got a stench to them. I remember back in the day, they ain't never want to wear deodorant. I know y'all remember that. Like, there was this thing behind wearing deodorant for them. And I would never understand that. But I just want to tell y'all, man, that we are the most resilient people. We can take so much on the head. And we've been taking it on the head, but now we need to take it head on. You know, now it's about what are we going to do about this stuff, these conditions that we continue to live in, that we've inherited. And it has to stop. It has to stop. And you know, I just kind of wanted to bring up what happened because I just have a totally different perspective. I want to go see it in the movies. Now, hold up, my bad, y'all. I'm not the sidebar like that. Now, Gigi, I want to go see it in the movies. I'm waiting for it to pull up on my Fire Stick, you know, because my Fire Stick gets all the new shit. So I'm trying to avoid having to pay a little quint. But they were saying that the movie, some people said it was good, some people said it was bad. Now, someone had wrote on my Instagram that they didn't like how they separated the Choctaw Indians or the Choctaw Indians from the Negroes. But even this man, hold up, let me put this back up. Are you watching on the website, man? Throw that Joan in there. Hold up. Be real quick before I go, y'all. I want to go back to what he was saying. Wild ass nigga.
Other races to get rid of the Indians.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the Byrd papers, and you would read his diary on April the 7th, 1728, he actually visited our reservation in Jerusalem, Cortland, Virginia. And what's so interesting about that, he described how our people look. He said the young men came out and their faces were painted and they made all kinds of grotesque figures and they danced for him to the sound of a gore drum stretched tight with an animal skin. Then he said the young women came out and they were tall and shapely and dressed in their finery. Their hair was braided. And they had white and blue conch shells in their hair that hung like locks and around their neck. And then they had wrapped around their body a match coat, which was red and blue, which is a shawl, that fitted loosely about their body, that their mahogany skin shone through. Then he went. Let me get this. He went on to say
mahogany. Come on, bro. Do you look mahogany? Cut the shit.
That these dark angels make exception.
Dark angels.
Wives for the English planters, and they're
see and see, come on, exceptional wives for these English planters. Look, I know y'all don't like when I be talking about that, but it's the truth. We was here, shapely, looking good, beautiful, mahogany, brown skinned people. And these people were amalgamating themselves within us, getting with us, and vice versa. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this is why I said what I said is not far-fetched. People want to get mad at me. But if you think that this was happening then, I mean, it was happening then, and we see it happening now. So to say that there's no distant relativity there is insane. It's insane to me. I just want to go back one more time because I got so much flack for speaking on the truth. And we got to stop. And I'm going to be going into more research about this too, bringing out sources, you know, books, whatever. Okay. To let y'all know that this wasn't nothing that was fault of us today. But you weren't there back then. And to even try to dog out that idea, you know, a lot of y'all need to grow in your thinking and in your mindsets. He talk about shapely women. Ain't we shapely? Come on now. We got front and back, legs. Do they want to say we obese and all this stuff? No. We are naturally built this way. Like, what? Stop what you doing. Let's just go back. Oh, shit. I did not mean to motherfucking do that. Hold up, y'all. Let me open it back up. I did not mean that. Okay. There we go. He right where I need him to be, too. Let me pull it back up. Like, how could he even listen to that description and somehow think that they were talking about his people? You don't sit down.
And what's so interesting about that, he described how our people look. He said the young men came out and their faces were painted and they made all kinds of grotesque figures and they danced for him to the sound of a gore drum stretched tight with an animal skin. Then he said the young women came out and they were tall and shapely and dressed in their finery. Their hair was braided and they had white and blue conch shells in their hair that hung like locks and around their neck. And then they had wrapped around their body a match coat, which was red and blue, which is a shawl that fitted loosely about their body, that their mahogany skin shone through. Then he went. Let me get this. He went on to say that these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. Unquote.
Come on, man. And then y'all want, come on, Mo, hold on. One more time for the Negroes in the back. One more time for the so-called pure bloodline Negroes. You motherfucking pure bloodline Negroes. This for y'all.
Visited our reservation in Jerusalem, Cortland, Virginia. And what's so interesting about that, he described how our people look. He said the young men came out and their faces were painted and they made all kinds of grotesque figures and they danced for him to the sound of a gore drum stretched tight with an animal skin. Then he said the young women came out and they were tall and shapely and dressed in their finery. Their hair was braided and they had white and blue conch shells in their hair that hung like locks and around their neck. And then they had wrapped around their body a match coat, which was red and blue, which is a shawl that fitted loosely about their body, that their mahogany skin shone through. Then he went. Let me get this. He went on to say that these dark angels would make exceptional wives for the English planters, and their dark skin would bleach out in 2 generations. Unquote. That's a quote.
Come on now. And you think that the dark skinned people they talk about is your ass? Come on now, shapely, make exceptional wives for these European or English planters. And then somehow everybody got pure bloodline. Stop. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it, okay? Just stop it. For real. Because I already explained this before, that if you got a pure bloodline, pure meaning inbreeding, that's what that means. It don't mean what y'all think it mean. Shapely women, mahogany skin, dark angels. So if I had more time, y'all, I would go over it even more, but unfortunately I do not. So y'all terrible with this shit about them bitches shaped like fire trucks. Yes, definitely square bodies for sure. Definitely, it's not giving what we give ever. Like the women in Atlanta, gorgeous. Okay, the Georgia women, the women in Texas with shapely bodies. You know what I'm saying? My Midwest girls with the body, yaddy, yaddy. Okay, that's not an uncommon thing that took place. So I just want to be clear what happened to us, man, and why there's such a whole lot of riffraff around things that it really shouldn't be. And whew, I hope y'all know, man, that we are who we are. We gonna be who we gonna be, and we are the true originals. They came and made it with us. We were already here. Never forget. And y'all know that already. You know what I'm saying? But you can't take away from the truth. Don't run from the truth, man. Because it do get ugly. It do get ugly. It does get uncomfortable. But trust and believe, I've said that time and time again, Mo. I'm like, Mo, they saw us and they were infatuated. They were in love. Like, what? Get back. I'm not playing with you today, man. That it should be funny to claim that they full-blooded Indian with Black European, North African hairline. And the woman with Black European be skinny too. Skinny ass body. Come on, man. They got overstand what was happening here. And, you know, like I said, if I had more time, I would really get into it even more. Let me see something real quick. Let me see if I could do something. If I can't do it, fuck it. But I'm about to see real quick. Hold up. Let me go to Google. So anyway, y'all, while I'm doing this, y'all look out for May the 2nd because it's definitely coming. You know, and after that, I'm going to be having a wide range of other guests and people that I'm going to be speaking to personally, just having one-on-ones and conversations with, you know what I'm saying? Because we got to do that. Okay, hang on. Let me see something real quick. Let me go here. Let's see. Okay. Damn. Okay, let's see. Show more. Okay, hold it. Let's go here. Okay. Okay, I don't know why it's not allowing me to do that right now. Hold up, y'all. Let's go back because I should be able to do that now. Okay, maybe not. Analytics. No. All right. Shit, don't worry about it. I was going to send y'all over there to Big Dog Philly OG, but it's not work. I don't know why. I should have been able to do it. But anyway, it's all good. But I just want to emphasize why I'm bringing up this idea that, you know, a lot of things can be true at once. And everything is not as far-fetched as we try to make it seem. You know, I just really today, the point of this situation was for me to highlight how much that they've lied about our history, how much they've lied about who we are, and why it's causing a great amount of confusion even right now. And it's sick. And it's sick. And it really is sick. So anyway, y'all, on that note, I hope y'all have a great rest of your morning. I'm going to try to have a good morning. Please like, share, subscribe to the video, you know, and I'll be coming back more often until I start my master's program and just try to keep dropping things and going over things. I mean, I had some other things too, but it'll just take me over my time frame that I really wasn't trying to go over. But hey, you terrible Acamac. Terrible. What this say? When I went to New Orleans for the first time, I lost my mind with the food and especially the women. I didn't want to leave. I can't. I would love to go to New Orleans. I still want to. They said Beyonce was going to be at the Essence Fest. That's what I was hearing. I got to holler at Dulcie and them and see what's good with that. Yeah, I was going to send y'all over to Big Dog Philly OG, do a redirect, but, you know, I'm going to have to talk to the YouTube studio and ask them why that option is not available, because it should be. So I'm going to holler at them and see why, you know, that's not working or whatever. And yeah, on that note, I love y'all down. And y'all have a great rest of your evenings, mornings rather. Peace and love to y'all. Let me go ahead and play a little song to take y'all out. And we out. And yeah, y'all go over there to Big Dog Philly OG and show some love and support over there. I forgot. I didn't realize he was live. I just went on ahead and started my shit off the early, you know, because I really had some things on my mind that I wanted to talk about and get done. You know what I'm saying? And I did that this morning. So peace, y'all.
Who they think they better than? Ain't no comparison to the so-called black or African American. You can drop the African, keep the American. When we say Aborigine, it make they world in. I'm going in the same dirt my ancestors buried in. I come from a god and a goddess, so what that make me? Not even Basquiat can trace me. Not even Van Gogh can paint me. The MC in me is the God MC, equals the God in me. I'm focused in, let my mind be free. You too blind to see. The Jews I give is real, it's been real. These ain't shots, they missiles. All you gonna hear is the whistle. Lyrically, this an execution. My verses start revolutions from my people seeking restitution. Since the beginning, fuck evolution. Or maybe my reality is all a dream. I put it together like I was sowing seams. So it seems this is that audio dopamine. Go against the regime, we put you where nobody can hear you scream. And sing you to meet your Elohim. My nigga, this is savage mode. It's something that you can't decode. It started with a spark and I'ma let it explode. I was given the cheat codes that'll let me dump and reload and go through them waves like a fucking torpedo. You dealt the cards of life, I just cut them diamonds with the ace of spades. Y'all scatter like roaches when they facing raid, or vampires when they facing blade. I'm trying to get next to Shireen like I'm getting played. You still stuck as a mental slave. You still stuck in that mental cage. While I'm making easy money, pipping holes in style. This my coming to age. Crowd roaring when I'm coming on stage. And when I'm done, they gonna be cheering my name. Drake Cobbs, and nah, I ain't quit my day job. I spit bars. I really rap on my day off. That's real shit. Just give you some tools you can build with. Aim high even if you still miss. Just keep going. It's a climb to the top. And I'ma keep flowing. Down Lake Shore, I'm Chicagoan. Yeah. niggas is playing checkers, we playing chess. And nigga, this is checkmate. Dre be the big dog and you just a little bait. You out of Africa and we ain't got the same traits. I'm a God being and we ain't got the same fate. My granny died February 18th and I was born on the same date. The chosen one, the ancestors' chosen son. They gave me the golden gun. One shot, that's a hole in one. From the pyramid of the sun to Poverty Point. I don't think you niggas is getting the point. We still here. Who said they made the Aboriginals disappear? Your information's lagging in the rear. All you do is teach fear. We copper-colored with woolly hair. Am I speaking clear? So fuck the nonsense. When I rap, I touch your consciousness. From within is where you get your self-confidence. Let's bring it back to dominance. Ain't no confining us. Gonna bring that wild Indian out of us. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We still here.
Oh yeah. Also, I wanted to plug the debate tonight. So shout out to OTK and shout out to BAP. There is a debate tonight at 7:00 p.m. I think you guys have to cash app BAP. I think it's $10. Where American Indians or Aboriginals, hunter-gatherers before 11 to 12,000 years ago. I believe that's the debate topic. So, you know, maybe all of us can get up in there and show some support for OTK and, you know, also for BAP too, but definitely for OTK because I know that's my man's and, you know, I want to see him come out victorious, of course, but I love BAP too, but I definitely, you know, want to see this go down and, you know, yeah, we just got to support each other. So I hope y'all can make that happen, you know, get your tickets or whatever and show some love to both gentlemen coming with their information, coming with their heat. So anyway, on that note, y'all stay safe out here. Don't hurt nobody. And peace and love to y'all. Have a great day, okay? I'll probably come on tomorrow morning. You know, like I said, look out for David Eltis, May 2nd. You know, and y'all just keep dealing with the fam, man. We're gonna be all right, young. We're gonna be all right.